Today, we are going to be starting a new lesson. We've talked about theme, but we are going to be moving towards looking at two different stories and comparing the theme. So, today we're going to compare and contrast the theme and topic of two stories. Today we're actually going to focus on this piece, the topic. We're doing this so we can see how similar ideas can be used in our reading, and then you're going to know you have it because you will have read two stories and understood your reading by comparing the topic or the ideas within the story. So, before we can begin, we have to review what theme is. Theme, remember, is kind of that lesson you learn when you read a story. And it's the lesson that sometimes the character can learn, but more importantly, it's what we as the reader find out. So, some common themes are hope, responsibility, courage, friendship, perseverance, and honesty. And when we're reading, we have to ask ourselves some questions. We have to first and foremost kind of ask ourselves, what is the character learning? And a lot of times that will come out of the problems that they're having. So, we're going to pay attention to that piece. We're then going to kind of think about the theme as a sentence and or a statement, and I'm going to show you what that looks like now. So sometimes you'll hear things like this, like don't judge people by their appearance, or love conquers all, or good can come from bad, or don't lie, or honesty is the best policy, or we should treat others the way we want to be treated. These are all statements that come from these smaller ideas. So remember seed to theme. This is kind of like the seed, and this is the leaves or the tree trunk, the real meat of it. So today I have two stories here. I have the woodcutter and I have the shepherd's boy. And I'm going to compare and contrast, most importantly, just by filling out this, paying attention to those elements of the story. Who are the characters? What was the setting, the problem, the solution, and the theme, so that tomorrow, when I go back into these stories, I'm really able to compare that theme. And we're going to practice this over the next couple days. So I'm going to start here with the woodcutter. This is a folk tale from Pakistan. So, once upon a time, there was a man named Alex. He was a woodcutter, which meant that he earned his living by cutting trees in the forest. He was a very poor man, but he was always honest. One day, Alex was cutting down trees near the river. When his axe fell in, Alex started to panic, as he couldn't afford to buy a new axe. So he quickly swam into the river to find it. Sadly, it was gone, and Alex started to cry. Suddenly, a fairy appeared from the river and asked Alex why he was so sad. After explaining the story, the fairy went inside the water and returned with a golden axe. She asked Alex if it was his, but he refused to take it, explaining that it didn't belong to him. Then the fairy went into the water and brought out a silver axe. Again, Alex refused to take it. Finally, the fairy brought Alex his wooden axe, which he accepted happily. Seeing his honesty, the fairy gave him the gold and silver axes as well. When Alex's greedy friend Sam noticed that Alex's life had changed for the better, he became very anxious to know the reason behind this. After Alex explained what happened, Sam decided to throw his axe into the river. When the fairy appeared, Sam lied to her and told her that he had lost his axe by accident. The fairy went into the water and brought him a golden axe. Sam happily accepted that axe and told the fairy that it belonged to him. As Sam walked down the path to the gold seller's shop, the gold axe magically changed into his wooden one. The Shepherd Boy's Fable the Shepherd Boys. It's a fable by Aesop, and these are like those stories where we learn the lessons. A young shepherd boy tended his sheep at the base of a mountain near a forest. The shepherd boy often became bored and decided upon a plan by which he could get a little company and some excitement. One day he raced towards the village, calling out, "Woof, woof!" Hearing his cries, all the villagers rushed out to help him. This pleased the boy so much that within a few days later, he tried the same trick again. Once more, the villagers came to his help. Soon afterwards, a wolf actually did come out of the forest to eat the sheep. The boy cried again at the top of his lungs, "Woof, woof!" But this time, the villagers, who had been fooled twice before, thought the boy was deceiving them, and nobody bothered to come to help. So the wolf made a good meal of the boy's flock. When the boy complained, the wise man of the village said, "A liar will not be believed even when he speaks the truth." All right, so now it's time for me to kind of look at the topics and the ideas within these stories and compare the elements. So, the very first thing I've got the woodcutter and the shepherd's boy. I'm going to go ahead and look at the character. So, in the first story, there was actually quite a few characters. There was Alex, his jealous friend Sam, and then there was a fairy. And then in this one, it was the villagers, a boy, and then a wolf. And I would definitely say that in this folktale, there's some slight pieces of magic like the fairy, whereas in this fable, there's really nothing extra to it. It's a little boy and some villagers. There's nothing special about the wolf. In the first story, it takes place in the forest and the river. The second story, it also takes place in the forest, but it says that he tended his sheep at the base of a mountain, and sheep are often tended in a pasture. So the problem in the first story is interesting because there's not just one. And it's important that we pay attention to both of these because it really leads us to being able to figure out that theme. So Alex loses his axe in the river, which is our first problem. But then after everything is said and done, we're introduced to another problem, and it's that Sam wants to get gold and silver axes too. It's different than our second story because in our second story, there really is only one true problem. The little boy is bored, so he tricks the villagers, and eventually nobody comes to his rescue. So, in the first story, there's a clear solution. Alex gets to keep all the axes. In the second story, there really isn't a solution. There's just a lesson that we learn out of the problem. So, I'm going to leave that one blank. And then finally, I would say that the theme for the first one is when you tell the truth, you are more likely rewarded. We saw in the very first one from the problem that Alex loses his axe, but when he tells the fairy, he's honest that those first two aren't his, she rewards him not only by giving him his axe, but also the other two. Whereas when his friend goes to goes to the river and to the fairy, and she offers him the same axes, he lies and doesn't get to keep them. So, in our second story, The Little Boy Who Cried Wolf, the theme in that one is when you don't ever tell the truth, then people aren't going to eventually believe you. So, you're not to be believed. And the one thing, and I will say this as I start to think about tomorrow that's coming out of this, is this idea of truth. So I see that both of these stories, while they had some very different pieces, there is one little piece that's coming out and really kind of making me think, there is a similarity here. And I want to be thinking about that much more than just the fact that they both take place in a forest. All right, guys, so today we are comparing and contrasting the theme and topic of two stories. That's really our focus for the week. Today we focused on that topic and story elements. We're doing this so we can see how similar ideas can be used in my reading, despite the fact that they're two completely different stories. And I'm going to know that I have it because today you're going to read two stories very similar to this, and you're also going to complete an organizer in some form. It may not look exactly like this, but something similar to this. All right, guys, if you have any questions, please remember where to ask them and how to do it. You can drop it on our reading page, or you're welcome to email me or message through that inbox feature. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.